But all that being said, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, nothing else was contemplated to coexist with that. Now, of course, you can practice whatever religion you want to, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that we're going to change our founding principles because of your religion. And the problem with Islam, the movement is imperialistic in nature. What do I mean by that? Meaning that they're trying to set up one caliphate under one caliph. I mean, if you study it, that's just what they're trying to do. And there is a mandate that you have to act a certain way and do a certain thing, and you can't think, and there is no freedom in there. And all you got to do is look at the theocracies of an Islamic nation and see how much freedom is there. And there's not. So they're not. This is why I said this before on the other show, and I'll pass it on to Momo, because I know he wants to defend Mamdani. But this is why Ben Carson said years ago, and he got himself into a pickle. Yeah. Because he's not a very articulate man, but he's a good man. He said a Muslim cannot be president. And people went bananas. But he's right ideologically. Ideologically, an Islamic person cannot pledge loyalty to anything other than the Sharia. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong.
Higher than Sharia. Like, Sharia has to be supreme.
When I was DA, I mean, and it almost happened in Irving, there was this movement to set up Sharia courts. That's why Abbott signed this bill in Texas where you can't, that's not acceptable. And which is, the
praise
country
God for him.
Well, yes. Yeah. The whole country should be that way. Yeah. But they wanted it. And so what happens in a Sharia court is if there's a problem, discipline, a legal matter, then thank you, Constitution.
Y'all stay out of it.
You keep it to yourself. We're going to our Sharia court to get justice.
Come on.
And then ask the women how they're treated.
Yeah.
For us, we pray for and try to persuade the homosexual. In an Islamic country, purely Sharia, they're hurt. They're killed. Can be killed. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm happy to be corrected.
Yeah, when I hear about women and homosexuals, is there something within the Hadith, the Quran, and what's the third?
Sirah. The autobiography of.
What's in there that comes with that thought, or that sort of we do not permit this, accept this, and there's consequence to that.
Well, I mean, the Muslim concept of marriage is fundamentally heterosexual, and sexual expressions outside of that are seen as impure and deeply sinful. So in that sense, I mean, it aligns with how Christianity sees any other sexual expression other than a monogamous heterosexual relationship. So in that sense, but we don't incarcerate people. We don't coerce people in a compliance. And so when we say that even the constitutional order in the United States adopts from Christian principles, because you can see that in our common law. This is why you have freedom of thought and freedom of expression. You can make your own decisions. You can't pick your consequences, but you can pick your actions.
Right.
And so in that sense, there's alignment. And Islam doesn't tolerate that. Like I said, anywhere you look where you have an Islamic republic and you have a totally Sharia compliant society, you won't see any tolerance of that whatsoever. And so what you're seeing in the West is an incremental sort of subjugation of the West to the principles and to the priorities of Sharia. And you can see it. And I'll just give you an example. And by the way, this is a concept within Islam. It's actually in, I think, Surah chapter 4 in the Quran, where it says, look, Allah wants to lighten your burden in a society where the kafir is in control. The kafir is any non-Muslim.
Non-believer.
And so what Allah basically says is, I realize you can't practice Islam in full-blown mode, so you practice what you can, and what's prohibited is tolerable. What is otherwise prohibited is tolerable. And so you incrementally increase your influence. But wherever you can, and in this nation, it's profound how much we allow Islam to get away with.
Because we've been
and how much we've accommodated Sharia. Look, I'll give you an example, because it's, you guys, you don't even pay attention, but maybe you will now, anybody who's listening. At virtually every single major airport in the United States, you have Islamic cleansing centers or foot washing centers. They're called ablution rooms. You have one at George Bush International Airport in Houston. You have one in Kansas City, Indianapolis. It's airports I've been to. And these are stations where there's literal foot washing for Muslim employees and Muslim passengers. And so these are significant accommodations that are made. And when they're not, and when they haven't been, CAIR steps in, the Council on American Islamic Relations, and insists that there's a violation of civil rights, that there aren't reasonable accommodations being made. That's Sharia. That's a Sharia expectation. So that's a wedge concept. You create a wedge, and you do it in the name of civil rights. It is incalculable, really, the amount of subjugation that you've seen. And I'm using that word. People are like, subjugation, what are you talking about? Because it's been kind of subtle. It's flown low on the radar. But make no mistake about it. It starts like that. And CAIR insists that there would be Muslim councils to review American textbooks before they're parlayed into school districts. That's a thing. You've got hospitals that are required to make accommodations. You've got clinics that are required to make accommodations. I already mentioned schools and universities.
But for no other religion.
Right. Significant accommodations. And so this is happening with more and more frequency in the United States. And so we mentioned mosques in the video, Nico, because a mosque is not just a place where people go to worship. It's a power center. It's a projection of power. It truly is. And it's not passive. You don't just go in there and say a prayer. The Shahada, which basically says, you and I were talking about, that Islam is really the only true religion, and Allah is the one true God, and Muhammad is his prophet. That's a proclamation of every faithful Muslim. Across British schools everywhere, you've got British students that are literally stating the Shahada.
Wow.
Let me ask you a question, and I'll shut up. Can you think of a single university, and if you can't, Google it, because I'm sure you don't have it to the top of your head, but you can Google it. Good luck finding it. I can't think of a single university with a single course, either in the sociology of religion, Nico, or religion, or whatever, that employs critical thinking on the history and nature of Islam as a religious system, that allows for critical thinking on it. It's always
let's
portrayed and represented in very positive terms. To do anything other than that,
let's talk about what Sharia stands for.
You get lots of pushback. Go ahead.